Come and dream with me.
Hello, welcome to What Do You Watch, the Explosion of X Premier Media Podcast. Every week we get together, talk about movies, TV, and online content, help you answer the question, will Hayao Miyazaki ever actually retire? Doesn't seem like it. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me today, Dylan Blatt.
Well, I'm going to be very keen to see there's going to be a stage here where Quentin Tarantino and him will be saying they're retiring for like the length of Jimmy Barnes's retirement tour, I reckon.
Yeah, so apparently, the head of Studio Ghibli's executive, Junichi Nishioka, told CBC News, other people say that The Boy and the Heron might be his last film, but he doesn't feel that way at all. He is currently working on new ideas for a new film. He comes into his office every day and does that. This time, he's not going to announce his retirement at all. He's going to continue working as he's just always done. Yeah, so I think it's already confirmed he's not retiring anymore.
I've never personally understood, like, if you're an artist, why do you need to state you're retiring? Really, like, just do something. If it happens to be your last one, we'll know that. Yeah. If not, like, because then you're like locking yourself into this. What if like 5 or 6 years pass, and then suddenly you're like, fuck, I've got this really great idea. I want to like do this thing, and it's like, oh, suddenly it's a big story coming out of retirement. It's like, well, you know.
Yeah, I just want to read this excerpt from The Verge that Alicia Haddock wrote. The year is 1997, and famed Studio Ghibli director Hayao Miyazaki announced plans to retire following the release of Princess Mononoke, a film that set new records at the box office for Japanese animation and revolutionized the medium. The year is 2001, and Miyazaki announced plans to retire following the release of Spirited Away, saying he can no longer work on full feature-length animated films. Year is 2013, and Miyazaki announced plans to retire following the release of The Wind Rises, saying that if I said I wanted to make another feature film, I would sound like an old man saying something foolish. The year is now 2023, and Miyazaki is an old man saying something foolish by releasing a new film titled How Do You Live in Japan, and renamed The Boy and the Heron for the international market. The point is, it's hard to say with any certainty whether this will truly be the moment Miyazaki steps away from feature animation for good. So yeah, I suspect this is going to sound gruesome, but I think he's going to die in the process of making another movie.
Which I think is fine, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like this is especially in the way he makes them. Like, he's especially, at least from my understanding of the way he made this last film in particular, I guess, which is just like over the course of as long as he fucking takes to make it, pretty much. Like, maybe with those other films, like the pressure from the studio, you know, like to try and get things out faster, etc., all that. But I just feel like if he wants to work on things, and if he dies making it,
if he's paying for other people to help. The other thing is he's actually drawing like the frames himself, which a lot of other directors, I feel like that isn't the case. They're kind of,
that's why it takes so long for this fucking movie to come out.
You know, so in my mind, he'll pass away in the process of making his next movie, and there'll be like an unfinished frame somewhere in the movie, which was the last frame he was working on that they don't want to
poetic.
Don't want to finish off. Yeah.
Studio Ghibli's problem isn't not letting him just like do stuff like this until the day he passes away. Their problem is they have no way to continue the studio after he dies. Is their current predicament, which is a whole other thing, but like that's their problem. Is they had fresh talent in there, which the baton was supposed to be passed to, but they left and made their own studio, and like without once Miyazaki passes, like there's just no movies anymore. Like it's just done. His son makes movies, but they're not nowhere near as good.
Well, that's the other there's a legacy element that makes it like super difficult to want to be a director at Studio Ghibli, I would assume. Like it's a safer bet to like go start a new studio than make a film at Studio Ghibli and have to live up to the Miyazakis and the other who's the other big Studio Ghibli director?
Fuck. Yeah, fuck. God damn it, he makes a movie you hate.
Yeah, I know. Isao Takahata.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we'll wait and see. Obviously, The Boy and the Heron. Still no confirmed release date for Australia, which is
Do you watch the
annoying.
trailer?
No, I did not watch the trailer yet.
Neither.
Or the teaser.
And if you were going to
I've
put
seen
it in
stills
the
and stuff.
yeah,
I
I've
was
seen like
yeah.
I scroll through Twitter. I've seen a thumbnail, which is about as much as I'm probably going to watch online. If you'd put it in this week's notes for the trailers, I was actually going to override you for the first time and say I'm not.
Yeah.
I refuse.
I suspected that would be the case.
Yeah.
So I smartly just decided to skip that.
The only way I'm going to watch it is if it's forced upon me in a cinema screening. I can't escape. By my own choice, I'm just not watching anything.
All right. On today's episode of What Do You Want to Watch, we'll be discussing watching our watch history, going up some film news, giving thumbs to trailers that aren't The Boy and the Heron, and giving you this week's top three. Kicking things off, I went to a screening of A Haunting in Venice, the latest of Kenneth Branagh's Hercule Poirot films, this time set in the city of Venice, not on some sort of mode of transportation. He returns as Hercule Poirot, now retired, trying to live a somewhat peaceful life in Venice, but he is recruited by his longtime friend Ariane Oliver, a author, a mystery author, who kind of helped make Hercule Poirot infamous by writing a novel loosely based on him. She recruits him to help her figure out how this medium is scamming people. So there's this medium played by Michelle Yeoh, who comes to a widow's.
Well, spoilers. She's scamming people. I thought it was real.
Well, she thinks it's a scam. What? She assumes it's a scam because we live in the real world and mediums are scams. Am I right? Yeah. So she goes to this. It's Halloween. It's on Halloween. Halloween night. They go to like this piazza home that this opera singer lives in. She lost her daughter the year before through what appears to be a suicide. After hearing voices, the house apparently is cursed or haunted, with a story of in the basement, like a bunch of children got locked in and were left there to die. And now all the children want to kill any doctors or nurses who enter the home.
Seems fair.
So the daughter would hear the voices and were driven crazy. The medium comes and has a seance, and then a murder happens during the night, and Hercule Poirot goes about solving it, even though he's been retired for a little while. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. I think it's probably up there with his. I think it's probably Murder on the Orient Express, this, and then Death and Nile, in the order. Yeah, it's just obviously the thing that it's just a really well put together film. Like it is very old school. Like obviously we've had a slate of like mystery whodunits recently, with obviously Rian Johnson being at the front of everybody's mind with his Knives Out films. This is very much still very old school. There's still the formula of like you slowly build up to the murder taking place, and then Hercule Poirot goes and interviews everybody, and then there's a long scene where he slowly reveals what happens. But yeah, I found it quite riveting. Obviously, there is a slight supernatural element to it. Like, is there that raises doubts as to whether it actually was people or whether it is potentially spirits, like causing people to die in this house. I think it's very well shot. Obviously, like it is. I don't know if they actually shot in Venice, but it definitely looks like they shot in Venice. It's got a really interesting Gothic house or building that they're kind of living with, very dark and brooding. Like, yeah, I thought it was really good. Lots of really fantastic performances. A lot smaller star-studded cast than his previous two films. Like, I think Murder on the Orient Express was like every single person was like could potentially be on a poster, like could be the headliner. So I rewatched Murder on the Orient Express yesterday, like in the background, just to try and catch up before I went to screening. I forgot Olivia Colman is in that movie. Is like Judi Dench's assistant.
Here's my question.
It's
if I didn't like the other two movies, this one's still gonna. I'm still not gonna like.
I don't think you're gonna love it if you didn't like the previous two movies. It's still Hercule Poirot. It's still his style. I don't think there's enough there to change your mind on. Yeah. The other thing, rewatching Murder Express, like there's the couple that were their child was murdered in the past. The father, played by Phil Dunster from Ted Lasso. Crazy. Well, not crazy. He's an actor. So, but yeah, not as many. Obviously, you've got Michelle Yeoh, Tina Fey, Kenneth Branagh, Jamie Dornan, who are probably the more known actors in this bunch. But there's a lot more like character actors amongst the cast, which I guess kind of raises the. It's not as obvious who potentially could be behind everything, because it's not like, I feel like the last couple of movies, it's like, oh, they did it because they're the big name celebrity, you know.
Armie Hammer's the bad guy because he eats people. Spoilers.
Yeah, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I think you could probably watch this like completely standalone. I don't think you need to watch the previous two films. Like, that's the only thing I would have liked some more connective tissue. Like there's a line about him not having, or him saying he doesn't have any friends. It's like, didn't you though? If you watched the last movie, is that why he's in retirement? But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good time. Definitely a different vibe, which like makes it separates it from the previous two films. But yeah, I thought it was really good. Over on Disney Plus, they released the second season of I'm Groot, the series of shorts featuring baby Groots going about stuff. Dylan, what did you think of season 2 of I'm Groot?
Yeah, it was good. It was just solid. It wasn't as exciting as the first season. I don't think it's anything to do with the quality of these. It's just it was more fun the first time. But yeah, it was just like binged them all, had a laugh. They were all at least solid. I think I actually didn't like the last one as much. Just the whole narration by the Watcher and whatever else. I was like, I think this is just trying to be a little bit too cute for its own. Like, oh no, don't walk there. Oh, look how silly Groot is. Oh, I was like, yeah, just whatever. So I'd say that was actually the worst one. I don't know what my favorite would be. That's hard, actually. I think I laughed the most at probably, I don't know, just him getting the ice cream by just like killing a bunch of people, basically. I assume. Like, it's pretty funny. Just blows up the entire fucking, just drives straight into the ice cream truck in space just to get an ice cream. Understandable, so, you
know. Yeah, I think, you know, very enjoyable. Like, obviously it's the second time around. Like, this time we knew what we were kind of expecting with these shorts. I think they were even shorter this time. I feel like last time they were like 4 or 5 minutes. This time it's like 3.
Yeah, but more varied last time, and this time they all felt like just 3 minutes each.
Very, very short and like time condensed. My favorites, Groot's nose, which I think was fantastic. Groot accidentally gets a nose attached to his face, and then goes around. You can finally smell, goes around smelling stuff. And let me tell you, they did not have to come at gamers that hard. The way they do in this short.
But really, the moral of that was, if you chop your nose off, you can just go back to enjoying your pig lifestyle as much as you can, because Groot doesn't clean up that mess afterwards. He gets rid of that nose. He's like, it's fine now.
No, that's
he knows the smell's there, but doesn't matter.
The preference is not to just ignore your problems.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was really fantastic. So check those out on Disney Plus. Dylan, you watched the Korean film I Saw the Devil.
Yeah, I'd been wanting to watch this for a while. I kept putting it off I think it's one of these films I kept putting off for years, to be honest, because I'd heard it was like really intense and it was like 2.5 hours. And I was like, I don't know, 2.5 hour, like subtitled intense film. Just gotta line that one up right, sort of thing. The short of this is it stars Troy Min Sik. Well, it's actually weird to say he stars because he's the bad guy, but he basically is the star. And he's most people know him as Old Boy from the original Old Boy. And he's a serial killer. And the movie starts with him like kidnapping this girl, like fucking torturing her, and then like leaving her body parts. And then turns out the girl is the police chief's daughter, and she was also engaged to Lee Byung Hun's character, who is like a secret service agent or some shit like that. It was all a bunch of people. Like she's the daughter of a police chief, and she's married, like about to be married, like Secret Service. Anyway, then it turns into like a revenge thriller where the dad and the fiance want to track down the serial killer that the cops aren't able to track down and like get revenge. So he sets out and he manages to find him. And like none of this is a spoiler because this all happens like within the first 40 minutes of the movie. Because what ends up happening is he does this like basically a catch and release game to fuck with him. Like he wants to like get the most revenge he possibly can. Like he finds him, he like beats the living fuck out of him, like hurts him a lot, and then lets him go, and then puts a tracker in him, and then he's like stalking him, like to like the morality of the film becomes like what happens when you like go down a path like this, like what happens to you, like and is revenge a best, it would be like, is revenge a dish best served cold? Like, will you ever walk away like happy and all this sort of thing? It is quite intense. It has a lot of like fucked up, like there are a lot of scenes with quite a lot of blood, and stuff like that. It's not a horror movie. It's definitely just a very intense crime thriller, I guess. My only downside is the length. It definitely could have 100% been tightened up to get it under, like, or probably closer easily to the 2 hour mark. And at 2.5 hours, it definitely does drag through some scenes that I was just like, you're just like, not. I appreciate a filmmaker that's like, you can tell it's just probably been told like, but this needs to be tightened up, and it's like, my vision's my vision, whatever. But and then the other thing I didn't love is, as much as Troy Min Sik's character is a completely fucked up villain, and he is fantastic in this. Like, I already know he's a great actor. He's like one of one of the greatest like foreign actors. I don't know if that is a thing you can fucking like, but or at least like South Korea or Korean, I guess, actors. There we go. Probably one of the best Korean actors. He is really, really good, and there's like a lot of character to him, like, and not even a good way. It's just a lot of character to creating this villain. You see a lot of him. You see him talk to other people. You see him like interact with people. He's basically the Joker to this guy's Batman, I guess. But the guy's Batman, the main character, who's on the hunt. There's not much to him, and I guess that's like done on purpose. Like, all you do is like, you meet him at the start of the movie, you find out he is like a sweet enough guy. There's a scene at the start where he's like singing on the phone to his partner who's like waiting, because the reason that his partner gets killed, the girl's because her car breaks down and she's waiting for a tow truck to come, and then old mate turns up and fucking kidnaps her. But while she's like talking to him on the phone, and like, that's the only moment you really get to see any sort of personality to this dude, apart from straight after that where he's just suddenly on a one-man mission to seek revenge. There is a moment towards the end of the film, like once he sort of, it's all over, where he shows more. But yeah, that was only it. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I can understand why people consider it one of the greatest thrillers to come out. Like, it's in a lot of people's greatest thrillers to come out over the last, like, sort of, the 2010s or whatever. So yeah, deservingly so. Really, I enjoyed it.
All right. So I finished watching After Party season 2. Of course, this is the murder mystery show, where each episode kind of has the suspects retelling their versions of the events of the after party the night before, but each episode is kind of like a different genre. Yeah, I love the first season. Season 2, I think, is just as good. The cast is so fantastic. Yeah, I don't want to say too much. I feel like again the resolution of the story is super satisfying. Really enjoyed like the recurring characters as Monique and uh, Zoe, as well as Tiffany Haddish back as Detective Dana. I feel like this season there was like I don't know. I guess last season there was a lot of in between the retellings. There was a lot of stuff going on in the current timeline. But yeah, without saying too much, After Party season 2, really good. Everybody should go watch it on Apple TV Plus. Let's move into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. And the only thing I watched on Netflix was the documentary Scouts Honor, The Secret Files of the Boy Scouts of America, which kind of details the Boy Scouts' long history of doing nothing in the face of sexual assaults and male grooming and that kind of stuff. So it's interestingly positioned where the interviewers are interviewing the a long time police officer who did a lot of these dealing with a lot of sexual assault with children with minor cases. He's brought into the Boy Scouts to kind of clean up and make the Boy Scouts look like they're perfectly good at dealing with all this kind of stuff. And he is stopped at every point he wants to try and make changes or improvements or just information about what the Boy Scouts have been doing to stop what protections the Boy Scout company has put in place to stop the children being put in danger. And then the documentary just proceeds to give you case after case after case of children who are detailing their sexual abuse stories. It is a very hard watch. A lot of these, obviously, these kids going into the Boy Scouts and being attacked by Scoutmasters, by other kids who are also part of the Scouts, by camp counselors and that kind of stuff. It's very messed up story, which ultimately comes to, I think, what reading here, 82,000 people came forward to seek damages against the Boy Scouts in the last couple of years. So this kind of expresses all the stories and a lot of them coming forward, not so much because of the money, but to talk about how widespread this issue is and how removing a lot of the stigma against men who are being attacked in this way and stuff. But man, the current head of the Boy Scouts, it's comes across like a fucking piece of shit. He's trying his best to play the total line and be try and paint his organization in the best light possible currently, but man, he comes off like a prick. So yeah, just a very disturbing recounting of what happened with the Boy Scouts over the last it's an institution in America, it's known everywhere, but they had pretty much no protections in place to stop assaulters from being part of the organization. So if that sounds like something you want to watch and hear about, Scouts Honors is currently playing on Netflix. And yeah, that's everything I watched this stream. Let's move into a bit of film news. And the big story this week comes from a Vulture article called Rotten Tomatoes, the decomposition of Rotten Tomatoes. To break it down pretty much, in a damning piece, reading from Screen Hub, in a damning piece by Vulture journalists Elaine Brown and Luke Winkie, it was revealed that review aggregate site Rotten Tomatoes has been compromised by a US-based PR firm that pays writers to submit more positive, sales-friendly film reviews. Bunker 15, the firm in question, would pay film critics $50 or more for a review and prioritize sending the more positive ones to Rotten Tomatoes in a seeming attempt to bump up the aggregate score for films they managed. The practice reportedly went on for over 5 years. One film, 2018's Ophelia, starring Daisy Ridley. Did you ever watch that one, Dylan? Do you even remember it?
No, yeah, I remember the trailer, but I never watched it, no. I remember seeing the trailers. Like, yes.
So rose from an initial aggregate rotten score of 46% to a fresh 62% after such incentivized reviews were added to the site. Rotten Tomatoes denies knowing anything about this apparent manipulation, reiterating in the Vulture piece that they prohibited reviewing based on financial incentive. In light of this, Rotten Tomatoes has since removed a number of Bunker 15 films from its site and sent a warning to writers who reviewed them. They quoted in Vulture as saying, "We take the integrity of our scores seriously and do not tolerate any attempts to manipulate them. We have a dedicated team who monitor our platforms regularly and thoroughly investigate and resolves any suspicious activity." Dylan, what are your thoughts on this story? It's like $50, really?
Yeah, I feel
Best
like, yeah. I don't know. It's is that all it took?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Yeah, it's a bit weird. Obviously, it's a tale of two sides, which is the bar is so low for people getting money in this like side of the industry where it's like there's 5% of real like IGN, like like Vulture, what like proper paid sites, and then there's like 95% that are like between these other places to us, and all those ones are sort of willing to take the extra buck. And then you've got the fact that Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic and all these places are such benchmarks, and the care factor for them has been like quadrupled over the years to the point that now everything relies on them. And in the movie industry, in the game industry, like people's bonuses and stuff are affected by where films and games land and all these ridiculous things that should not matter to how much people get paid. And that's how you all these things bundle up together and then insert this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting story. Like, it's not, the other wrinkle to it is it's not necessarily that they said they'd get $50 to write a positive review. They were paid $50 to write a review about the movie. And if you didn't like the movie, maybe you could put it on this other page that doesn't affect the Rotten Tomatoes score. Which again, super shady. But
The second you start taking money to write reviews,
if once you take money to incentivize you to write a review, like unless it's like a dummy review, I guess, like if you get paid
oh
to do
yeah,
that.
like that,
Yeah.
that's fine. The people are paid to do review, like, but they're just solely for the
Internal.
company's internal review.
Yeah, it definitely gets a bit very shady. Yeah, it's just it's interesting. Like, that's just this for the Vulture article. That's just the starting point for talking about Rotten Tomatoes and how much of an influence it's currently got on everything, and like
The world,
how much studios are trying to game the system, I guess, like, and how much it factors into a certain audiences wanting to go see films. Like, it's interesting because it was only like 2-3 weeks ago we were talking about this same subject, and things have kind of weirdly changed. But do we still think Rotten Tomatoes is like a benchmark thing? Do we feel like the average moviegoer really cares about what the Rotten Tomatoes score is when they go out and watch pretty like some mediocre movies making a bunch of money at
I was
the
thinking
box
about
office?
this in retrospect. I realized afterwards that although it's not Rotten Tomatoes, someone like my dad, for instance, he doesn't go to Rotten Tomatoes, but he uses Just Watch a lot, right? And
Yep.
I'll witness him scroll through Just Watch and look at recently out of movies. And for whatever reason, they have the user IMDb score listed next to a lot of the movies. And so does the Google Play Store or somewhere else. I see him scroll around a lot. And he'll quite often be like, oh, this thing's only got 3.4, must be shit. So, like, it's like maybe that's not an example of Rotten Tomatoes, but yes, I do think that these scores, wherever you put them, no one ever looks into where that, because I'll try to explain to him, I'll be like, it's a fucking user score. Like, just ignore it. It doesn't matter. It's nothing. Don't pay any attention to user scores. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem across the board is like the scorification of everything. Everything needs to have a value. of some kinds. Like, can you really score art? I guess is the question
You
that
can,
we don't
and
want to
we
delve
do it.
into. Yeah, we don't want to delve into too far. Should we score art? Is the thing that we should delve into. Shouldn't want to too much because we score.
Yeah,
Stuff.
well, in another world, I would happily come up with I wish we could just come up with a fun scale that means nothing except for to us, but to play and get into this world, I know that having a 10-point scale increases our chances of stuff exponentially. So I will not change it. Like I accept the that's the way it is, and I got to play ball.
Yeah. The other takeaway from Screen Hub's recap, that kind of raised discussion in our group chat, the raised question: are critics bought in Australia too? They write the situation described in Vulture is entirely US specific. That doesn't rule out the possibility that positive reviews are being bought in Australia too. From this writer's perspective, it's been alarming to see the rise of TikTok stars, YouTube celebrities, and other social media influencers packing out film previews that are typically reserved for critics alone. In my opinion, the business of being a film critic is one that requires passion, skill, and a robust education, whether that be from a top university, the neighborhood multiplex, or an extensive media library on the family PC. It doesn't matter. It's an opinion-based profession, sure, which eliminates the need for objectivity. Being in the business of subjectivity still requires integrity at a minimum. If you don't like a film, tell people you don't like it. If you do like a film, tell them you like it. Nadine Whitley, freelance film critic, said, we're living in a time where legitimate film critical voices are being drowned out by influencers and niche celebrity endorsements. It's reprehensible that there are certain review influencers out there who use their social media impact to push for a certain film regardless of quality. I'm not sure how the opinion of random persons from Married at First Sight factors into a critical conversation. Dylan, what are your thoughts on influencers impacting? I know. How does this impact Rotten Tomatoes? To me, this felt like a very weird deflecting when the question is, what's up with film critics being paid to write reviews?
Well, the relation is, it's nothing to do with Rotten Tomatoes. The relation is just people being paid to give positive reviews, and the side tangent brought in is that influencers are quite often paid to do positive press that are then twisted by the film PR companies or the companies themselves into positive review like things, like maybe they do a TikTok and at the very bottom of the spiel it says hashtag sponsored, but then the company's retweeting or reposting that TikTok and no one reads that far and they go, oh, this influencer I love is saying that this movie's fantastic. Or maybe they don't even put sponsored. Maybe they just take the fucking free invite and they get suckered in because they're a 19-year-old fucking influencer, and they take all these pictures on the red carpet and they say, oh my god, this is the movie, it's the best thing ever, and they feel like they have to say that because they're young and they have no idea that they're able to have a critical consensus on something, and just because they're invited to a movie premiere that they could actually still be negative about it doesn't actually affect anything, but they always say positive things because they feel like they have to. And not having
But
voices, the
maybe
part of
they
the
did like
article
it.
that no,
You're just assuming they didn't
they
like it.
could have, but I never see influencers talk shit about. When's the last time you ever saw an influencer take a picture and go, "Man, the movie was bad"? Never have I ever seen that. I've never seen an influencer say a movie was bad. An influencer always says the movie is good, no matter what.
Yeah, because they just don't say anything.
And that's the part of the article they're saying. They're saying because they're not getting on a high. Like that sentence starts off and you think it's going to go. When I started reading it, like film criticism requires blah 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 blah. I was like, oh, don't go down this road of saying you need a fucking degree or something. But they don't. They just say you need to have a passion for film to do film criticism or whatever, and be that an actual education or simply you watched a fuck ton of movies growing up, right? I watched a fuck ton of movies growing up and I continue to watch a fuck ton of movies. There's my education, motherfucker. So do I feel like I can have an opinion on movies? Yeah, because I've watched like thousands of the fucking things. That's my 2 cents. So and then the ability to have an opinion is a skill. It like takes like the ability, the balls, the kahunas, whatever you want to call it, to go to to get invited to a movie and then still say it was shit is something that is required if you're going to have a public platform and be considered any sort of movie review. And the problem is you'll be like, oh, these people will be like, oh, but they're not actually movie reviewers. They're not writing anything, they're not doing anything. But they'll film their little TikTok lives or whatever, and they'll start and go, well, here's my little review on the fucking movie. I thought it was fantastic. I'm not a reviewer. I'm like, well, you just said you was doing a review. And you've just influenced a bunch of people to say it's great. You'd never say it was shit. You may think it was shit, but you're not going to say it was shit. So yeah, I do think that, and you go to these fucking premieres, you would see all these influencers there.
Yep.
And I read about other people tweeting. I follow enough people at film that enough Australian film critics that I see people subtweeting about the decline in people at Australian film premieres, like film premieres in Australia or film screenings in Australia, where the majority of people there who are actually wanting to do film criticism or write about films with some we'll talk about them even, or even do a 20-minute YouTube video that's actually criticism. I don't want to delegate it solely to writing, but like an actual like opinionated form of whatever you're doing, compared to the 70% of the rest of the audience is invited so they can take a picture in front of the fancy poster with the pizza at the fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles premiere and post it on their social media profile and say, thank you so much for my pictures, blah, 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 the movie's fantastic. And that's it.
But
that's
it
all
was
they need.
fantastic.
It could have been fantastic, but they wouldn't say it wasn't, is the point. They'll
You don't
always
know.
say it's
Maybe
good.
they just like everything. They just like
That's the
moving pictures on
problem.
the screen.
You cannot have, if you like everything, you are not a fucking, you have no voice. You're a fucking
Wow.
sheep. You're a doll. You're lifeless. You're nobody. You're pointless. You shouldn't
Pretty
be,
harsh.
like, it's fine. My fucking mum loves everything, right? Would I trust her opinion on anything? No.
Well, then it's the, the person who's watching that's, they know that this person likes everything. Then why are they holding their opinion on movies?
This isn't just a film thing. This is a general, this is the whole
thing.
world thing. But like in this topic of misogyny, we are focusing on film, but it is, this is everything. This is the world of everything from fucking people who used to talk about books to fucking film and games and whatever. It's just been overrun as the world slowly turns. And you're going to get to a point where the only people getting invited, here's the thing. What happens when you stop getting invites and everyone apart from that. And then everyone fucking there's only 10 biggest fucking proper movie critics getting invited to these, and then the other 90% is just all fucking Instagram, TikTok influencers and stuff like that. And that's the way the world goes. So now the only opinions, quote unquote, or first impressions, quote unquote, coming out of these screenings is a bunch of people who are always going to say they love it because they never want to piss off the company, because they want to get their free shit and they want to go to these events because they have to go to the events because that's how they get the fucking, they need that lifestyle. They need to always be somewhere and doing something and posting cool pictures. Fucking hashtag. Fuck off.
I mean,
don't get me started, Ash. You know what you was doing? Bring this subject up.
Just build runtime. No, I totally get it. I feel like it's definitely a two-way street. Like, obviously, the PR firms, they want these people going out there, showing their photos, taking the pictures on the premieres, like showcasing the movie, getting the name of the films out there. That would necessarily film critics would not be able to do. They have a smaller
The Flash is the best superhero movie ever. Fuck off.
You haven't even watched. No, that's to make fun of. That's fair. I definitely feel. I definitely get the impression there's some angst from at least a couple of screenings I've gone to, like of between the film critics and the influence. Well, at least from the film critic side, I think there's a bit of there's certain people who get under the skin, I think, of some of the film critics I've seen. Like, I don't really interact with many other film critics here.
You don't interact with people, full stop, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because
I know.
Yeah. But it's a little bit cliquey. I feel like that's the thing. There's a group. But, I've seen certain people who, like, very much... There's one person in particular who shows up to every single screen premiere with the t-shirt of the studio who's making the movie. Which is, like, weird objectively.
I'm sure their opinions are totally fine. They give you your true thoughts.
But I also don't think you should. The way when I first read the article, I felt like it was a little bit elitist. The way they were talking about
I don't think it's elitist.
these previews should be for critics alone. None of these influencers should be showing up to these things. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion. Obviously, it is a necessary
I don't think it
evil.
comes off elitist, and I don't think that all screenings should be. I don't think influencers shouldn't be invited to screenings. Full stop. I just think that the percentage.
I mean, the other thing was you're talking about these Rotten Tomatoes approved critics, so people who've actually done what's the criteria? 2 years of work for a publication that's not self-published, consistent reviews that gets approved by Rotten Tomatoes, and then they take the $50 to bump these reviews up, and you're like, it's the influencers the problem, It's not gun control; it's mental health issues. That's the problem.
No, I think you've taken So I think you've read the article completely different to me. I took the article as, "Hey, this thing inspired me to have this thought," and I wrote this article. Where you've taken the article as like it directly relates to the article that inspired it. I don't think it has. They're not talking about Rotten Tomatoes at all. It's just like the first paragraph is, "Hey, this thing's been happening in America. Hey, let me talk about this other thing that's sort of related to reviews and stuff."
I mean, it says here, our critics bought in Australia too. So
yeah, it's just a headline.
That's literally what's above the section I read about influencers.
Yeah, and the answer is yes, but not in the way they're talking about it with $50.
Our critics.
So you tell me if a influencer, if a TikToker is invited to the premiere of something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then they film a fucking TikTok and they say this is the best movie ever, and they don't claim to be a reviewer or anything, but then Paramount chooses to use this movie is the best fucking thing ever and put it on the poster and credit to them, like sort of thing. Are they or are they not? Like, is there not like are we just a slippery slope there?
I guess it depends on how they credit it. Like, you could pull, like, I'm sure many studios just pull audience scores reviews.
They do, and it's fucking dumb.
Okay. Well, now audiences are allowed to have opinions.
Audiences are dumb.
All right. Let's move on to the continuing on the writer strike, and the biggest development this week: Drew Barrymore announces talk show return amid strikes. So apparently she's going back to work without her 3 WGA writers on board. Apparently Drew Barrymore is all right to actually host the show herself because in her position she is on a different contract than her SAG-AFTRA contract. But this move has pissed off pretty much the entire Writers Guild, to the extent where obviously they were picketing in front of the show today. 2 audience members accepted Writers Guild's strike badges as they were going in, and were kicked out of the studio for wearing those badges inside the audience. Not much else to say here, but it's interesting because obviously, when you think about Writers Guild, you're not thinking of talk shows like the Drew Barrymore show, or I think The Talk is about to come back as well, or those kind of shows. But again, they have writers. People write stuff, opening monologues, like different, like the interstitials between different segments. But yeah, this is very bad PR for Drew Barrymore, who over the last couple of years has become arguably one of the bigger talk show hosts. Daytime talk show hosts, at least in America. I feel like
she'd become one of the biggest talk show hosts, and also considered more one of the like down.
Well, she's just filling the void that Ellen left it revealed her problems.
Yeah, but now, I actually sort of hope. I don't know. I sort of hope that this all just gets turned around.
Hopefully, this is the instance.
I hope Drew Barrymore puts her foot down.
How so? Well, it's hard because again, I feel it's pretty clear the reason she's going back is because she's got a whole entire crew that also needs to be paid and needs to work, not just the writers,
That's fine, but put her foot down and say, I don't know, get those people who kicked out back in.
I think, well, apparently she didn't know anything about it. It was
I'm sure she didn't.
Over the top security.
Yeah, I'm sure, but still, she's would have heard about it by now. It's all over the fucking internet. So
yeah, I think they've offered to give them new tickets or whatever. But yeah, it's very weird.
There's absolutely no reason you cannot do the talk show, and if you want to do it right and return without your writers while still supporting those writers, like there's no reason. No, the only reason is because you're on the network wouldn't want you to, but fuck it, for Drew Barrymore.
So, what do you think the solution to this situation is?
I think they should be making, they should be supporting the strike on the show.
How?
I don't know. Mention it every episode.
Okay.
There you go. Every episode starts with, "Hey, our writing team's not working on the show. Hopefully the studio pays them. We're continuing on because other people need to get paid. Cameraman has got a kid. Anyway, hey, I'm Drew Barrymore, and my guest today is no actors because they can't, no writers because they can't. Oh, it's Elmo.
Yeah. And then the other news, in a long expected move, a bunch of the studios have started to suspend a lot of the overall deals that they've signed. So on the evening of the 7th, a flurry of headlines confirmed that Warner Brothers Television Group has suspended their deals, and several others that remained quietly active during the Writers Guild strike began in early May. The news came as a shock to some who hadn't realized a cadre of TV's biggest names was still drawing a paycheck and harbinger of coming pain for others. Sources across the studio and streaming landscape predict more suspensions will come, largely in the non-writing executive producer ranks in the weeks ahead. As one studio exec put it, Warner Brothers just gave everyone cover. We've been waiting for someone else to go first. To be sure, the first wave of suspensions came in the spring, and by all accounts were swift and extensive, included the vast majority of pure writer deals and many overalls from Mike Schur and Sam Esmail to Chuck Lorre and John Wells. More recent suspensions include Pack for Dave Fogelman, Dan Levy, Donald Glover, Lisa Joy, and Jonah Nolan. So again, studios kind of taking advantage of the situation and kind of like cutting as many costs as they can, even though they're kind of obligated to pay these writers for their overall deals. So, yeah, it's rough, and you see the continued stories of like a bunch of people in LA being unable to pay for their homes, rent, and like trying to get rent help and that kind of stuff. It's the studio. Soon the studios just play ball, the better, even though they don't want to.
It's the thing I saw the past week. Well, I think it's between last week and this week. What film festival was on?
Venice, Telluride.
Yeah. So
Toronto.
Just the fact that old mate Adam Driver's up there and being able to up there and speak about Ferrari and also speak about and support the strike, and it's just like it's just wild that Neon and A24, these small studios, are just like, yeah, that's fair, cool, we'll get on with our life. Like it's just...
Well, I think the other story that came out this week is like the Writers Guild, like, hey, studios, why don't you just break from the AMPTP? We'll deal with you individually.
Yeah,
it's like, because that union, the motion producers union, like,
yeah,
how are you supposed to all agree on the same thing when they all kind of are trying to do different things?
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like something could work.
It's like such a big industry, and it's like of different people and whatever in America, and such a big, massive money making industry. It's like me and my brother are in different fucking unions, and we both work in retail. So like,
yeah,
the fuck.
Yeah, it's sad. This is still ongoing at this point in time. So hopefully soon. Let's move to giving some thumbs to trailers. You'll find all the trailers that we're talking about this week in the show notes below. Starting off with Naiad, directed by Elizabeth Chai, Vasa Hiley, and Jimmy Chin. Starring Annette Bening, Jodie Foster, and Rhys Ifans. 64-year-old marathon swimmer Diana Nyad attempts to become the first person ever to swim from Cuba to Florida. Dylan, what do you think of the trailer for Nyad?
Double thumbs up. Looks great. I'm ready for Annette Bening to get an Oscar.
Does she not have one?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think this looks really good. Obviously, it's directed by the team behind Free Solo and The Rescue. So like they come from a predominantly like documentary background, but they know how to shoot nature and that kind of stuff well. So for a film that's predominantly in the water, that's kind of helpful. Yeah, just looks like really great performances from Annette Bening and Jodie Foster. All the water stuff looks really good, like that crazy storm that's in the trailer. And then they've got they've got some like weird visual like dream sequence stuff. It looks like, but yeah, that looks really good.
Four Oscar four
noms,
no wins. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. Looks really good. So, 2000 from me. It is coming to select theaters on the 19th of October and then to Netflix on the 3rd of November. Next trailer is for Quiz Lady, directed by Jessica Yu, starring Sandra Aquafina, Jason Schwartzman, Tony Hale, Holland Taylor, and Will Ferrell. Anne, a tightly wound, game show obsessed woman, must come together with her chaotic sister Jenny in order to help pay off their mother's gambling debts. When Anne's beloved dog is kidnapped, they will set off on a cross-country journey in order to get the money they need. In order to do so, they will have to tap into Anne's skill set by turning into a game show champion she was always meant to be. Tell them, what do you think of the trailer for Quiz Lady?
I'll go double thumbs up on this. I thought it looked pretty funny. I'm keen to see Sandra Oh in such a wild and wacky role for her. I don't think she's ever done anything quite like this. And Jason Schwartzman in that one little scene he has in this looks just ultra slimy, which was it looks funny. Will Ferrell looks like he's Will Ferrell. Aquafina doesn't look like she's doing her typical Aquafina thing, which is at least somewhat different there. Yeah, so I'll go double thumbs up. Look good.
This is one up, one down for me.
Whoa.
I like the concept, but yeah, it didn't elicit any laughs or chuckles.
You know why? It's because it's probably too much awkward comedy for you.
That probably factors into it, but
she said cocaine in a public place.
It was stevia. Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
So this is coming to Disney Plus on the 3rd of November. Next trailer is for The Royal Hotel, directed by Kitty Green, starring Julia Garner, Jessica Henwick, Toby Wallace, Hugo Weaving. Americans Hannah and Liv are best friends backpacking in Australia. After they run out of money, Liv, looking for adventure, convinces Hannah to take a temporary live-in job behind the bar of a pub called the Royal Hotel in a remote outback mining town. Bar owner Billy and a host of locals give the girls a riotous introduction to down-under drinking culture, but soon Hannah and Liv find themselves trapped in an unnerving situation that grows rapidly out of their control. Dylan, what do you think of this film set in Australia?
Australia, mate. Yeah, double thumbs up. Looks great. Can't wait. I really liked Kitty Green's last film, The Assistant, or whatever it was called. Yeah, that one. Which also starred Julia Garner. So Jessica Henwick, keen to see her get hopefully more of a spotlight in this because obviously she's sort of one of the most, I think, underrated actresses at the moment. Lots of Australian little names and stuff I was spotting throughout the trailer and stuff like this, which was cool to see. Yeah, I'm keen. I think it looks really good. Neon releasing a movie in Australia that's about super machistic Australian men in a fucking bar life. Yep, sounds about right.
Yeah, this is a 2 thumbs up trailer. I have no desire to watch this. Yeah. Just a really well put together trailer. Like, it kind of shows what the film is going to be about without giving too much away. Yeah, the two leads look fantastic. It definitely looks like an Australian outback bar. Like holding up the gold cans. It's like, I don't know what that is. I know what kind of beer that is. But yeah, another fantastic job promoting Australia.
You can just hear it. Hang on, down. Hang
Yeah.
on, down.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Toby Wallace, who was in Baby Teeth. He looks really good in this as the mean, menacing, like lead kind of dude. But yeah, again, not great for Australian tourism. Probably, in my mind,
It actually is because
man, this is
Wolf Creek.
Yeah, that's the one. I was like, man, this is like Wolf Creek, except about the actual people.
Yeah, but that was really good for Australian tourism. People wanted to come here.
Get what?
Yeah,
people.
But the thing is that the biggest Australian films always seem to be ones that are set in the middle of nowhere, fucking outback. And then people go, "That's crazy. Let's go visit those places." And then they get the fucking plane takes them from California and lands in Sydney, and they're like, "Whoa, there's a city here."
All right. So there is currently no Australian release date, but it is released in the US on 6th of October.
Yeah, so Neon won't put it out here, which is
no.
fucked.
So it's being released by Transmissions Films here.
Okay, Transmission Films. That makes more sense. It'll get released here. It's the Transmission's doing it, so it's fine.
It'll be interesting to see in the Australian reaction to this movie.
I think it's fine. No one's gonna care. Australians, Australia loves making.
To be fair, Kitty Green Australian, so
yeah,
from our
the Australians who are going to watch this movie is going to be very minimal.
It's not going to be Australians, the people who actually are like the people.
No, yeah, because those people don't watch Australian films. In fact, Australians hate watching Australian films. It's a well-known fact. Australia hates supporting its own film industry.
All right. Next trailer is for Relax from the Future, directed by Luke Higginson, starring Rhys Darby, Gabrielle Graham, Janine Terholtz, and Julian Richings. A man from the future, now trapped in the past, tries to make a life for himself, oblivious to the consequences he has set in motion. Dylan, what did you think of this time travel movie?
I'm going one up, my dad. I really liked the premise and everything like that. I just thought it was a bit of a messy trailer, but otherwise, Rhys Darby and anything's probably going to be good by just him being in it. Yeah, I just felt like the trailer was a bit messy and just edited weird, but overall, I'd still be keen to check it out for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's a one up, one down. Interesting premise. I do enjoy Rhys Darby. The joke about multiple timelines is funny.
At the end. That's
the
dumb.
ends,
That's stupid.
It's not exactly clear what the storyline is, but I would be excited to find out. So yeah. This one, no Australian release date, set to release in the US on the 22nd of September. Last trailer for this week, The Bike Riders, directed by Jeff Nichols, starring Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Mike Feist, and Norman Reedus. Of course he is. Kathy, a strong-willed member of the Vandals who is married to a wild, reckless bike rider named Benny, recounts the Vandals' evolution over the course of a decade, beginning as a local club of outsiders united by good times, rumbling bikes, and respect for their strong, steady leader Johnny. Over the years, Kathy tries her best to navigate her husband's untamed nature and his allegiance to Johnny, with whom she feels she must compete for Benny's attention. As life in the Vandal gets more dangerous and the club threatens to become a more sinister gang, Kathy, Benny, and Johnny are forced to make choices about their loyalty to the club and to each other. I believe this was at Venice? No.
Yeah, Venice.
TIFF or Telluride, one of them. And got very positive reviews. Dylan, what do you think of the trailer for Bike Riders?
Double thumbs up. I'm keen. I think the cast all looks really, really good. You've got Tom Hardy doing an accent again for some reason, but anyway, I'm assuming it'll be good.
Well, he's British, and this is in America, so he had to do some sort of accent.
It's just such a very specific accent. I'm like, whatever though. Jodie Comer looks really, really good in the trailer.
She's also doing an accent.
She's very much doing an accent, but I'll deal with it. Austin Butler looks like he's still just playing Elvis, to be honest, but I'll deal with it. A lot of other bit players in this that I'm keen to see, including aforementioned Norman Reedus on a bike, but not, but like hopefully doing something a little bit different. But I mean, like you still got Damon Harriman in this, and the Boyd Hoybook, and a few other people that I think could be cool standouts. Michael Shannon as a biker, I think would be cool to see. You get like 1 second of him in the trailer in the first couple seconds into it. But yeah, double thumbs up. I'm keen for sure.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up from me. This looks fantastic. I haven't watched any of Jeff Nichols' stuff before, but I might have to watch something probably because I hear all these movies are really great. It kind of felt like it feels like a biker gang Goodfellas is what I'm kind of getting the impression of. Obviously, with like Jodie Comer kind of being interviewed in present day or like in the future, retelling the events of what happened to her and kind of narrating everything. Yeah, looks really fantastic. Definitely keen to check this one out. This is releasing on 16th of November.
What I need, so I've watched. I was just looking to see if there's any. So I've watched Mud, which is good. That was like
Sorry,
the movie.
there is currently no Australian release date. Read that wrong.
Oh, no Australian. Yeah, there will be shortly. But yeah, so Mud was really good. I remember watching Midnight Special when it came out, but honestly, I can't remember too much about it other than the core premise. What I completely forgot about is that he did Loving, which I remember being really wanting to watch, and then it must have slipped past my mind or something because I never actually got around to watching it. So that was I might have to go watch Loving now that this has reminded me about that film. So yeah.
Okay. So reiterate, no Australian release date, releasing in the US 1st September. 1st of December.
Come out here 1st of January, I betcha.
Probably, like if it is a genuine Oscar contender. All right, let's move into this week's top 3.
Definitely in the top 3.
And because there's a haunting in Venice, this week's top 3 movie cities.
When you posted this last night, I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like,
top 3 cities in film.
Really pushing it these last couple of weeks, I feel. Like, top 3.
Like stretching how close it is to the subject matter. Yeah, is that what the issue is?
I think so.
Or is it too difficult?
No.
All right, Dylan, what's your number 3?
This is a difficult one. I just went with whatever. I tried to get a bit of vary, but I mean, there's just so many.
I feel like we'll have overlap, pretty strong overlap in this one.
I don't think so because I don't feel like I went with I maybe one, but I highly doubt it, especially once I say my number 3. Number 3, Orlando from the Florida Project.
Oh, okay.
So I really liked. This is probably one of my of the movies I've watched the last couple of years that I'd never watched upon release. The Florida Project probably continues to be one of the ones that, like, if I'd watched that release, I probably would have rode that motherfucker into the stardom of being one of my favorite movies of that year, because it's utterly fantastic, and I just loved its depiction of, like, because the whole movie is literally just about these it's the poor people. Not like meanly, but it is the fucking lower class poor people living in these fucking hotels and stuff like that, but they're like 10 minutes down the road from Disney World. Like, it's such a class dichotomy and like such a good picture. And I know other movies do it well for like Los Angeles, the glamour, but then the homeless, like all these sorts of things. But I just thought it was such a especially when you watch the movie and the way it like sort of brings Disney World into it towards the end of the movie, because it really has nothing to do with Disney World, but once you like add it all up and you're like, it's sort of fucked that like this is happening. It's like such a good depiction of that, so just gave me a really good like feel for that sort of those people living in the lower caste of that city. Yeah,
interesting how you interpreted the top 3.
Yeah, I was like, I guarantee I was like, there's no way I interpret this the way you
No,
want.
it's probably it's my fault. It's
you're gonna be like Gotham City and fucking.
No. I was like, what? Like, if you were to set a movie in a certain city, what city would you be most interested in seeing it in?
Don't know. Depends what the movie's about.
Well, yeah. So my number 3 is Paris. I feel like there's so many interesting locations in that city that you could utilize. Obviously, have been utilized at least we've had 2-3 action movies this year already set at least a sequence in Paris. Oh no, it was Rome this year.
Rome with the rolling ball.
Yeah,
that was the Vatican, mate. Come on.
But John Wick was in Paris. He was in Paris, right?
Yeah. No, Paris just reminds me of Woody Allen, so I can't.
Wow, harsh. Paris, Ratatouille. That's where my mind goes. You know,
Yeah.
French cuisine, Eiffel Tower, G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe, them destroying the Eiffel Tower with the acid. That was the thing. Remember that movie?
Yeah, so
Paris.
you've taken a broader
City of Love.
I've taken the city from the movie. You've taken the city.
Yeah.
You've gone
the city and then applied them to the movies.
Mm.
Dylan, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Christmas Town from Nightmare Before Christmas. Is that okay? Or?
No, that's fine.
Christmas Town from Night Before Christmas. Jack Sullivan goes there. It's a great place. Lots of lights. I love it. Love to live there. It'd be fantastic. Because then you could also jump through a hole and go to Halloween Town. It's really great. It's like neighboring cities. But yeah, Christmas Town, one of the best Christmas cities locations ever put onto a cinema screen. And they're bringing it back to cinemas,
not even the main city in the movie.
No.
The one you visit it for like 5 minutes.
But it's great.
Just to abduct someone.
Yeah, Santa Claus.
All right. My number 2 was London. You know, great city. Lots of interesting old buildings. Cabs. Historic landmarks. Buckingham Palace, I don't know. Yeah, London's my number 2. Dylan, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is Chicago from the Blues Brothers. I think that movie does such as like of all films, Chicago as seen in Blues Brothers is such a collective mix of music, which is obviously what Chicago's sort of known for from years past to current, like sort of Chance the Rapper like where we're up to, like representing Chicago at the moment, but just does such a like adding so much personality to that city from its the big skyscrapers, the big inner city buildings to the outer suburbs sort of what do they call it? Like just the cheap restaurants, the fucking where they stop and all that sort of stuff, the highways, and then the massive chase scene, of course. Like so Chicago.
My number 1's New York. Like, I feel like
from New York, New York.
No, just New York in general. Like even this year again, bunch of movies set in New York. From Scream to like Past Lives, 2 completely different movies. Or Scream 6, I guess. Just the biggest city in the world. If you make it there, you make it anywhere. There's so many. It's so incredibly varied. It's got so many layers to it. Obviously, you've got the street level, you've got high rises, you've got underground with the subway, and then you can have crazy sewer systems. Like, and then it's got all the different boroughs or whatever. It's even in Spider-Man this year. Crazy. New York, number 1 place to set your movie. Dylan, this week, what do you want to watch?
Fucking not a lot, to be completely honest. I reckon Ruby. If I was to pick to go out, I reckon I'd be wanting to watch Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Would be my movie pick of the week, and TV show, nothing.
I'm keen to go see Blue Beetle. Let's see what that's about. Show me the blue. Is he blue? Is he Beetle? I'm not sure. Okay. Is this beginning of the new DC? Why are you against diversity in superheroes, Dylan? Like, they're clearly Spanish. They're clearly Latino.
I'm against superheroes at this point, I feel.
And then Welcome to Wrexham Season 2 kicks off. Excited to relive the events of the past season in Wrexham with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. So yeah, those are my picks for this week. Okay. Let us know what you want to watch this week by going to explosion.com/Twitter, letting us know on X, or find us on Discord by going to explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here at What Do You Want to Watch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. Leave us 5 stars. I know we can leave 5 stars, or just tell people about the show. And if you've enjoyed this episode, thought it was worth $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.